Pop, how's it going, man?
What's going on, son?
Not
How you
much,
doing?
much. Doing good, vibing. All things are strong here. So, we're going to get into our topic for today. We're talking PFF's top 100 list. And we did not have anybody, or I guess they did 101 this year. Usually do 100.
Yeah.
We did not have anybody on that list last year, believe it or not. So, this year, we got 3 guys that have made the appearance. So, it's exciting. Pretty cool. Or maybe we did have somebody on there last year. I think Pop's in the process of correcting it right
No.
now. But I didn't think we had
don't know.
anybody on there.
Yeah.
But we're getting right into it, man. We're talking our top 10. So we'll get into the top 10. What do you want to do first? You want to do the top 10 first, or do you want to talk about the Commanders?
Let's go top 10 first.
Top 10 first.
Because I feel like that flows better.
Cool. Number 1.
Spoiler alert, there are no Commanders in the top 10.
You want to go 1 to 10 or 10 to 1?
Your call.
All right. Let's go 10 to 1. Build a little suspense. Why not? Number 10, Saquon Barkley, Philadelphia Eagles.
Wow, that's low.
Yeah, I think it's low. They say they don't
or high, depending on how you want to look at it. I'm really surprised it's not higher on that list.
I would agree.
Yeah.
That's number 10. Number 9, TJ Watt from the Pittsburgh Steelers, edge rusher. Number 8, Chris Jones, Kansas City Chiefs. Number 7, Creed Humphrey, Kansas City Chiefs. Now, they factor in the postseason here. I don't know about
who is Creed Humphrey for those that may not be
center?
Yeah,
he's their center. You didn't know who he was before this list?
I wouldn't have known who he was before this list.
You know what I realized? The difference, me and you were talking about this earlier today about recognizing players by face and name. I play franchise, Madden franchise. So I see so many of these guys all the time. It just gets ingrained. You learn it quick when you're building the most winningest franchise in BYS Madden franchise history. You learn names very quick.
Amazing.
Elite scout right here and elite player, but that's besides the point. Anybody who thinks they can touch me in Madden,
they've got Creed Humphrey and Jason Kelsey type atmosphere in terms of grades, so he must be pretty good.
Look, frankly, I'll be honest with you. I don't know enough about the center position to give you my honest opinion on that. But number 6, Josh Allen, quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, the NFL MVP. I think this is low for the MVP.
That's interesting. This one's interesting, especially when you see who's number 1.
Yeah, well, when you see who's number 5, things start to get interesting too. Number 5, Derrick Henry for the Baltimore Ravens. So, look, Henry was unreal this year. There's no world in where you have him over Saquon Barkley.
Yeah,
There's no world.
That's what I was going to say. It's wild that he's 5. I mean, I guess they're just kind of using their grading system. I mean, he was at 93.5 rushing grade, 88 missed tackles forced.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's, you got Saquon, they're saying 55 explosive runs, which kind of are pretty meaningful to me. He racked up over 2,500 rushing yards. I don't know if you include the postseason. I was going to say at 2,500. That's pretty crazy, but I don't know. They're both great backs, but
yep. And then you got Jordan Mailata at number 3, offensive.
You missed
tackle.
number 4.
Sorry, number 4, Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals. Sure. Number 3, Jordan Mailata, offensive tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles. Sure. Number 2, Myles Garrett, Cleveland Browns.
Future Washington Commander.
God willing, I think this is high for him. We know the type of player he is.
It's eye-opening when you see him at number 2, especially playing on that team.
That's where it gets to for me is like all that amazing individual performance amounts to not much in Cleveland, which is why he wants to get out of there, but which is also why he probably would be a little lower on my list. I know we're talking individual performance, but that's just me. And then you got number 1, Lamar Jackson. I know the Ravens insiders juiced about this one. Baltimore Ravens number 1. Obviously did not get that MVP, which is something we didn't really discuss on the podcast much at all until now. Maybe now's a decent time to talk about it. But obviously it was a very close race between Lamar and Josh Allen, I'm not going to make an argument one way or the other. I think two things factored against Lamar. I think number one, the fact that he had won last year factored against him. And I think if you were going to crown somebody back to back MVP, they have to stand so far above the rest of the field that there's just absolutely no denying it.
I kind of feel like
Their
that's
logic.
wrong.
That's their logic, not
Yeah.
mine. I'm just explaining it. That was my logic
I
behind
mean,
saying
that sounds participation trophy-esque, right? We're going to spread it around rather than give it to the guy we think who's the best player.
their logic, not mine.
It was
Also,
super close between those two guys. And you can argue Lamar had a better team around him.
yes, and that would be the next thing is that Lamar's got another guy in the top 5, and I don't know that Josh Allen has another guy in the top 100. So there's that. That's probably the only other factor that you would talk about.
Plus, it got you call scoreboard since you said he wasn't going to win back-to-back, and I said he could possibly win back-to-back.
Yep.
You called me crazy, and he was this close.
Well, it does let me call scoreboard. And I said, if you go back, I said, he is going to have to do something unbelievable. And if I'm betting my money, I don't bet money on people doing things unbelievable in order to get that back-to-back award, just because it is so incredibly rare to get a back-to-back MVP. That logic proves sound, regardless of whether that logic is fair to Lamar, which I don't think it is. I think if you look at just one season in a vacuum, which is how this should be looked at, Lamar's probably your MVP. But I don't have a problem with it being Josh Allen. For me, the thing with Lamar and Derrick Henry is like both of them elevate each other's play so much, and Josh Allen doesn't have that, and you got a guy that's close. But either way, that's the MVP discussion. That's not the top 100 PFF discussion, but you kind of can't have one without the other. Is there anybody you would have had in this top 10 that wasn't in the top 10? What's your comment on the top 10 in general, Pop?
I'm okay with it. I don't, when I kind of look at, you got what, Zach Bond is 11, linebackers out of the Eagles, Pat Surtain's 12. I mean, none of these guys jump out at me that I say George Kittle's 13. Love for Kyle Hamilton at 14 for the Ravens. I mean, none of those guys jump out at me. I say they got to be in the top 10. Maybe Jayden Daniels, I don't know. But we'll get into where he rated. But I didn't realize that, TJ Watt, I mean, he carries the Steelers in many ways. He's so important to that team. Not surprised by that. Of course, Chris Jones being there makes sense. I say, long way saying the big surprise for me is that Saquon needs to be in the top 5, in my opinion.
Top 3.
Yeah, I agree.
Make an argument for him to be number 1.
Saquon should be there. I mean, his offensive tackle is 3rd. Tells you how important tackle is. I mean,
definitely.
I'd have no problem pushing Saquon all the way up to number 2 and then sort of pushing everybody back from there. If you're going to give Josh Allen the MVP, how is Joe Burrow ahead of him on this list? Maybe swapping those two guys out. Yeah. It makes sense.
I'd agree.
Me. Yeah.
I'd agree. And for what it's worth, just a quick Command F will tell you that the next Buffalo Bill is number 67, and it's a cornerback, actually. So the next offensive Buffalo Bill is number 76. So there's that kind of gap if you want to talk about the supporting cast argument. But that's it for the top 10. For our guys, Commanders, you've got Jayden Daniels at number 20. I'll say it right now. I'm just going to leave it. There's not 20 guys in the NFL you'd rather have on your roster than Jayden Daniels. That's it. We're moving on. He's at number 20. He's a rookie. Nobody thinks he can sustain it for another year. You're all crazy. You'll see.
I think the headline there is, though, he's the 4th quarterback on the list.
Yeah.
That's the headline, right? So you got Lamar, you got Josh Allen,
Joe
Burrow, then Josh Allen, and then
Jayden Daniels.
Jayden. So that's a lot of respect, a lot of love. I agree. I don't think if you held an NFL draft of all the players in the NFL, I don't think he's going 20th.
No. And that's right about where we had him ranked off our tier list. I mean, we had Pat on seniority and all time ahead of him. But if you're looking at just last year, I think that's right about where you'd put him. So I think that's fair. I just don't know that when you have like Joe Burrow or Josh Allen being the 3rd quarterback at number 6, and then you got 14 guys in between him and Jayden Daniels, I'm not sure you would rather have those guys, but that's fine. That's you'll all see. Number 41, Bobby Wagner, which I thought was super high for him. I was surprised to see he was the next one, but I thought he played great. And if you're looking at this season in a vacuum, I think it's about right. He was the second best linebacker in the league. I hate to break it to you guys.
It's mind blowing though.
Yeah, at his
I
age,
mean,
right?
it's incredible. Like I still feel like there's a little bit, if anything, an underrating of Bobby Wagner happening
Yeah,
because people think about he's doesn't got speed, but he's always in the right spot. He's such a leader to that team. He means so much. He was such a mentor to Jayden Daniels and a friend. But but then you just look at it as a player. We talk about his leadership. To be the second best linebacker rated in the league, that's incredible.
yeah, yeah. I agree. The thing with him is like, if Bobby Wagner was 24, can you imagine the way people would be talking about him? Like, if you took the Bobby Wagner performance from last year and
He
made
wouldn't be
him,
on our team.
yeah, and made him 24, people would be going crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe you'd see him higher on the list. So, and you got to keep in mind, man, I think he's only a year older than London Fletcher was when he came here. And what did London do for however many years? I mean, when you
Yeah.
get into that middle linebacker position, I'll tell you a guy that played middle linebacker here that was fast as lightning on and off the field, Jamin Davis. There's a good joke for you. Jamin Davis was fast in every capacity, right? And that guy was useless because he was fast, but he was never in the right spot.
Well,
So
it happens with older players, right? You might lose half a step or a step, but
yeah,
you gain from that is
an
that
awareness.
your awareness, your smarts,
Yep.
I mean, obviously a very intelligent person, not much less player, and is a film junkie. Takes care of his body. Jayden told a story about it. He said, "Hey, let's get in the ice bath after games. Let's start that recovery right away." He talked about learning that, from Bobby. So, love that Bobby Wagner is that high on this list.
Yep. And then you got next down on the list, Pop with a clutch fact check there. So the only commander on the list last year was Sam Cosmi at number 98. I think it's nuts he didn't make the list this year, but whatever. I think they just don't want to talk about anybody on the line because the line as a whole played so poorly. But
Right.
the poor guy was on an island all year because Biadasz just had to slide left every play to help out Allegretti. But I digress. You got Terry McLaurin next at number 66, which, again, I think is crazy low. I know he got off to a slower start, but if you look at the efficiency, that this guy had with the amount of targets he had is unbelievable. And it's because Terry McLaurin is a team player. He doesn't command the amount of targets that these guys command. And these guys are all great teammates as well on this list. But they're not Terry McLaurin in terms of all Terry cares about is winning. And so if that means 6 targets, he's happy with that. And if he gets 6 targets, you expect he's going to catch all 6 of them. These other guys on the list, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins, Puka Nacua, A.J. Brown, Drake London, what in God's name? Malik Neighbors and Mike Evans, who get ahead of Terry McLaurin. These are guys that have to be force-fed 11, 12, 15 targets a game to produce at the level they produce at. If you gave Terry McLaurin 15 targets a game, he's breaking records. It's just not the way the offense is set up. He's not that type of player, and he's insanely productive with what he's getting. So I don't have him ahead of Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. I think those two guys are in a tier of their own. Maybe you have that conversation when we have a tier list conversation later on. But there's no way I have him at number 66 and at
Yeah,
the ninth receiver.
This grade borderline pisses me off.
Get in there, Pop.
To be honest. Yeah. I mean, I just think it's I agree with you. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Honestly, AJ Brown. I'll give those guys. I mean, AJ Brown was dominant, can be extremely dominant. After that, I'm not picking any of these guys over Terry.
Yeah, maybe Puka. Puka's a coin toss.
But Puka missed a lot of time this year.
Yeah.
And,
it's a factor.
I don't think Puka gives you. He's an incredible route runner. He's an incredible possession receiver. He's not going to give you the downfield threat that a Terry McLaurin gives you. I mean, I know I'm biased. Terry's one of my all-time favorite players, but
Can you name one thing Drake London does other than put diamonds on chains better than Terry McLaurin? Drake London's jewelry game is off the charts. Can you name one
that
thing
was
he
a
does at football
that
better than
was a
Terry McLaurin?
shocker.
That's a spit in the face. I mean, what in God's name?
I
That's
guess
ridiculous.
it's the PFF rating system.
Yeah, but I mean, do they have a crush on the guy? Like, I mean, what are we doing here? That's crazy. That's crazy. And you know what? I can hear Falcons fans jumping through the screen. They want to make the same argument for the quarterback situation the guys had. And it is comparable to what Terry's had to deal with before Terry got a quarterback. And I think if you gave Drake London a good quarterback, you're talking about an elite
extremely talented player. There's no question about it.
No, it's not like disrespect to him, but it's like if you want to put Drake London at 31, I don't have a problem with that. But Terry should be, 27.
But I think the thing you got to look at with Terry, okay, he's finally got a quarterback. He doesn't have a number 2 receiver. I mean, it was number 2 receiver by basically. I mean, our number 2 receiver was a guy we got off the street, Noah Brown.
Yeah.
Occasionally, Zacchaeus would step up and play well, but then disappear for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And then Diaby came on strong late in the season. But I mean, it was a revolving door, so teams could focus on taking Terry away.
Yep.
And the fact that he had the season he had with that is crazy. But
look,
yeah, that one, like I said, upsets me a bit. But
I mean, Malik Neighbors is a great player, but they just throw the ball to him all game because they're not going to win the game, and they might as well feed him something. And he commands those targets with his play. He's a phenomenal player. I think Malik Neighbors on the Eagles, you're talking about a top 10 guy on this list probably. He's a fantastic player.
Yeah.
But like from what you saw last year, Terry McLaurin is better. Same thing with Mike Evans, in my opinion. I've got Terry. So all these guys that they named, Nico, Puka, AJ Brown, not Drake London, Malik Neighbors, Mike Evans, and Terry McLaurin, I would have in that next tier, and I wouldn't be mad however you ranked them, but there's not that much of a disparity. I mean, the next guy down is Puka at 25, or Nico at 25. How do you have Nico Collins one slot behind Justin Jefferson? Insane to me. But Nico Collins at 25, and then Terry at 66. There's not a 41 spot.
Well, you got him. I mean, was he 9th here? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
It says it right there, 9th wide receiver.
And to your point, Pop, no number 2 wide receiver. And the guy racked up the majority of his stats in that middle part of the season when teams were not giving away their entire life to stop him. And that's when you saw Diami Brown come on, was when teams were giving away their whole life to stop Terry.
But look at the run that Terry was making in crunch time at the end of the season through the playoffs, catching touchdowns, catching big catches. I mean, but anyway, I mean,
I digress.
Yeah. There's some other notables on here to go through, I think, in terms of just how maybe where they're rated on this list. There's one that's particularly shocking.
So you've got Mahomes at 39 behind Justin Herbert at 33. And then you've got Jahmyr Gibbs at number 36. So Mahomes at 39, I'm not super pissed at if we're just talking about what happened last season. But with Justin Herbert at 33, I mean, what is one thing other than comb that beautiful blonde hair back that Justin Herbert does better than Pat Mahomes? Can you name one thing?
I mean, I don't know. I just think that it's pretty popular these days to dump on Pat.
He'll be back. He hears all
that. I still think he's number 1. He wasn't number 1 this season, and they got him 6th.
Yeah, it would be 6 behind Herbert at 5.
I don't know. It's fine. We'll see what happens. I mean, the guy, we did our tiers. Some folks commented on it. 5 Super Bowl appearances, 3 wins. I mean, yeah,
Stud, man.
they got crushed. It wasn't great, and he didn't look great, but
No.
played really good to get him there.
Yep.
So, be interesting. I think he's going to probably come back with a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with Pat next year.
Yeah,
But just
yeah,
if you're factoring in the postseason, Justin Herbert was awful, awful. I mean,
yeah.
what are we talking about? Justin Herbert is a guy that I have been so high on for so long, and finally this year, during the regular season, I'm being justified, right? And then what he did in the playoffs, it took him down into Dak Prescott territory for me. Like just
Well, I think what this goes to show, if you look at where Terry is, if you look at where Pat is on the list, PFF is kind of based on analytics, right? It's a grading system. It's based on, and I'm sure, and it's very good. We all kind of lean into it. I think probably even execs lean into it. It's a data point, but it's not perfect.
no,
It's
far
just
from
not.
it. Far from it.
And look, I mean, we said you're not waiting, 20 players down to pick Jayden Daniels. I mean, Pat Mahomes is coming off the board, probably number one. If people are picking,
Of course.
any player they could want to pick in this draft. So the fact that he's 39th, it's pretty wild, but I guess it's just based on their rating system. And, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, they still have the best record in the league.
Yeah, and I think it's crazy you've got Jahmyr Gibbs that low.
Yeah,
Jesus,
I agree.
Jahmyr Gibbs is
That one
just
really surprised me. Jahmyr
sensational.
Gibbs at 36 surprised me because what I saw of him and against us too, he's right up there with Saquon in my mind in terms
Oh,
of
if he
just
got
how dangerous he is.
man, if you gave
I
him
mean, he was
Saquon's workload in that offense, the kid would have 3,000
every time he
yards this
touched the
year
ball, he seemed 10, 15 yards down the field before we even touched him.
before
I
anybody
mean,
even looks at him. He's
yeah.
just
I
unbelievable.
mean, that was the running joke that why the heck didn't they keep just feeding him the ball, especially
Yeah,
with how poorly Golf played that day. I mean, that was a real gift that Johnson gave us, the offensive coordinator.
yeah. And it was good enough to get him the head coaching job in Chicago. We know they pick great head coaches. The Golden Boy.
Yeah, good running back coaches
Notably,
too.
so 8 quarterbacks are on this list. It starts off with Lamar, then you go down to it goes Lamar, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Jayden Daniels, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes. You got Baker at 63. Then you got Jalen Hurts is the last quarterback on this
That's
list at
insane.
91. Which I think this speaks to your point about PFF being a data point. If you look at numbers, if you look at yards, if you look at what he's being asked to do in that offense, you can make the argument for it. Where my argument is in efficiency and is in how often for quarterback, and this is why I've been high on Brock Purdy in the past. For a quarterback, how often when you ask the guy to do something does he do it? It's not about how much do you have to ask him, because the whole goal of the team should be to ask the quarterback to do as little as possible. We saw it in Washington this year. When you've got to ask a quarterback to be Superman every game, eventually it's just not enough. And Jayden Daniels shows up and is Superman in Philadelphia, and it's just not enough because there's just not enough from everybody else, right? So you shouldn't be favoring teams because they're asked their guy to be Superman all the time. But how often does the guy answer the call when he's asked? Jalen Hurts has not hung up the phone once.
Well,
Once.
I think this quote under Jalen Hurts in this article from PFF kind of says it. He was rated 21st highest graded quarterback. Again, this is based on PFF grading systems, which we've already touched on. Is their grading system, but 21st. But during the Eagles' run to become Super Bowl champs, he had an 87.2 PFF rating, which was second only to Lamar Jackson. So in a playoff run, when it was crunch time, he was just, he was great. And so, they talk about the fact that he definitely was protected very well. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, there's no way he's 91st best player in the NFL. That's kind of shocking.
Yeah,
It'll
and
upset Eagles fans, which is kind of a bonus.
I'm upset. I'm upset he's second to Lamar Jackson because he played better than Lamar did in the playoffs. He won a Super Bowl. He's the Super Bowl MVP. At 91 is crazy low for Jalen Hurts. I think, again, look at what he did without Saquon to get them to the Super Bowl the first time. This guy's a great quarterback. He belongs in that top echelon of guys. We were all saying maybe he didn't this year. He proved us wrong. And
Enough on an Eagle. Let's go back and talk about Terry.
Yeah, for sure. Pop and I are man enough to admit that. We are. And you know what? Shame on most of you Eagles fans who wouldn't do it in the inverse for Jayden Daniels. But Pop and I are man enough to admit it.
It's whatever. I mean, I think, look, there's been a lot of back and forth with Eagles fans, and that's fine. My perspective is this.
You're so bored.
I think you're a little afraid because Adam Peters has been at it 1 year, right? Your guys, this is like 5th, 6th year, 2 Super Bowl appearances, doing great. You guys are awesome, but we can't take away what the Commanders were able to do in 1 year. So We'll see. We're all 0-0 now. You guys got scoreboard for 2025. We've been for 2024, we should say 2024 season. Very complimentary of that. But I don't like, I think our boys did pretty good for a 1 year turnaround. So we'll see what 2025 brings.
Agreed. We will see where this thing heads, but I think that's about it.
That's it, son.
I think that's about it for us, man. I mean, just shocking that, Emmanuel Forbes we don't see on this list. I can't believe that. Benjamin St. Juste snubbed. But that's it, guys. Let us know how you're feeling about this list in the comments. Obviously, we didn't write it. Let us know if you think we missed anything, Commanders-wise, any guys that you would like to have seen make the list. I think they got it about right. I think these are the guys that performed enough to deserve national attention consistently over the 18 plus 3, so over the 21 weeks that we got to watch this team.
Yeah, maybe a Frankie Louvu, maybe a Zach Ertz, maybe towards the back end of it, but I'm generally okay with it.
Yeah. No love for Cade York or Riley Patterson. That's tough.
Zane Gonzalez.
Hey, Gonzo did what he had to do. He's the only one out of that crew I'm cool with.
All right. Wrap this puppy. Let's stop stretching it out. Let's go.
Let's wrap this thing up. Pop's got to stand up. Without further ado, I've been Dom.
This is Pop.
Thank you all for another great week, and hail to the Commanders.
Hail.